We think it's a great time. We've been at this about 3.5 years, and cloud computing, it's been 90% of the discussion today in tech, yet it's only 5% of the market. And so we're able to kind of capitalize on a huge market with a lot of hype. It's kind of sorting through all that hype to monetize it. It's a challenge right now.
Is like Mark Benioff your hero? Do you have like a poster in your office?
We actually have multiple posters.
Well, he is a big guy.
He is one of our heroes, yes. He does a great job evangelizing the space.
Okay.
I think it's a great time. I agree with Mike that as an entrepreneur, you got to be ready for it. But we need more innovation, more entrepreneurship. We need less, certain types of professions out there. Let's create some jobs and change the world together.
Yeah, no, it's a horrible time to be running a company. I don't know about you guys, but half my customers got out of business last year in 2009. No, it's exceedingly difficult time to run a company, especially if you have real customers and revenue and employees who expect paychecks. But it is something you can always remind yourself. The best thing about recessions are that they end. And the most successful companies in this current generation were the ones who came out of the last recession. They stuck to their guns, what they thought was right. You take Salesforce, for example, when everybody thought software as a service, or ASPs at the time was dead. And they had success coming out of the recession. And so right now is actually a pretty good time to be running a company because I think we are coming out. And people are just kind of back in the spending, but there's a lot less people to compete with, so that's nice. But 2009 was not a particularly fun time to be running a company.
And honestly, I don't know, I disagree. I think it's if you have a good product, you have a good team, and you know what the market opportunity is, it doesn't matter what the overall economy is. We did great. We're doing great this year. We did great last year, and it was a terrible time to do business. But we got set up. We started working with our customers. They started to grow. They started to do well. So I don't think it'll happen. So we found the only 5 happy entrepreneurs in all of Silicon Valley. Let's see. I'll start. I don't want you to have always the first question. So, Chris, what's different this time? What's your advice to a group of both entrepreneurs and investors? Compared to 1999, what are you doing different?
Well, I think one of the things is that you definitely don't need nearly as much capital. I think there's a ton of capital available, and you don't need to take it. There'll continue to be a shakeout in the VC world, in my opinion, over the next 10 years. And so there's not a ton of great ideas to fund, but there's a lot of money to fund them. We, as an example, we're a couple hundred-person company that'll do 30 to 40 million this year. We hired our first IT guy last month.
You hired your first IT guy last month?
200 people.
What were you doing?
We're doing it ourselves. That's the technologies, the tools. Clearly, we like to show that you can run a company completely in the cloud, end-to-end, the serverless enterprise. But you don't need a lot of infrastructure to get going in. So I'd say that's very different.
Okay.
Wow.
It seems to me that people are starting companies for different reasons now, maybe than they were in 99, 2000. I don't know if it's a generational thing or what, but a lot of people talk about changing the world, disrupting, not just starting a business to make a lot of money. And I think that's good. And I think plus, because it does take such little capital to start businesses now, to kind of get a prototype out there and test it, I think it's much better than when it was in 99, 2000, when you really had to go out to the market and raise money on a business plan, and you run the risk of failing pretty miserably. While you can do this now on the side, you can keep a full-time job and try something at night, code something, and get it out to the market.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot has been made over the last few years about how much lower capital requirements are necessary to develop a product. And that's been I think it's very true, right? The infrastructure costs are far more incremental, the development costs can be spread out, and we all know there's 10 guys doing all the important work anyway within the organization. What's probably changing, I think, even dramatically over the last couple of years is what people hadn't figured out was how to get customers to buy the product at any reasonable cost. Customer acquisition cost was the killer for startups. I get a product, I get that out for $1 million, but then I need $30 million in sales and marketing costs to get people to buy it. And that I think we're beginning to see now. People are understanding how buying patterns change, even for business customers. That you can use that immediacy of the internet, you can use the online that was in the past reserved for kind of consumer businesses, and start applying them to business customers and use technology to make that happen in a way that you couldn't do a couple years ago. And I think that hopefully will bring down the sales and marketing costs of starting a company as much as it's brought down the development and infrastructure and COGS as well.
Yeah. Look, I'd say that the main thing from 10 years ago or so is the world's gotten a lot smaller. When we started our company a couple of years ago, one of my co-founders said, I want to build our development team in China, and I'm going to go live there. She's actually somewhere in the audience. And she built the development team there. From day one, we've had a 24/7 operation with kind of sales and marketing and local teams here in the U.S. She's there. I can call her on a 415 number. She picks up the phone on her desk. We have Skype conferences all the time, and we're just constantly in communication, and you couldn't do that 10 years ago.
So Barry, let's just cut to the chase. So, are venture capitalists necessary? Or if you don't like that framing of the question, this is done in silence. If you don't like that framing of it, how about what is the optimal role of venture capitalists going forward?
Well, a lot's been talked about the venture industry being too big, and I think it's probably fair to say that that's true. Part of it is that there hasn't been a lot of exits, IPOs, M&A exits are increasing, but there's just a lot of money's gone into the startups that haven't come out. So I think it's healthy what's happening right now, which you're seeing funds winding down, you're seeing firms not being able to raise new capital. So I think that it's shrinking, and it's going to shrink to the right size where the good venture capitalists are going to continue to add value. And what's changing is that you can get capital now. You can get up to maybe $5 million now from lots of different sources, seed funds and angel networks, and even high net worths, where before maybe you had to rely exclusively on venture funds. And so I think at a certain point, though, when it becomes a $10, $15, $50 million raise, venture capitalists are one of the few sources of that capital. I've been lucky. I did a Series A with a New York-based firm, Personal Capital, and the CEO of Personal who's on my board. He was a great board member. He became a great mentor, and ultimately he became a great friend. And I think when you're lucky, and there's a lot of venture capitalists out there that can provide that role. When you're lucky to find that person, they're worth whatever dilution you're going to take on the front end.
Sure.
You're going to hear some two founders in a row here say, "Yeah, I like venture quite a bit." As a matter of fact, I'm quite disappointed to hear that their funds are going away because they are. I mean, the amount raised this last quarter is at a much slower pace than was even raised in 2009, much less 2008, and I can probably attest to a couple of funds on my own board who won't exist in 6 months. And so that's going to make it tougher. There's no question, because while you can get your development costs down and you can do that, the time frames are longer. We're talking about recurring revenue businesses, obviously, which take a little longer. It's harder to go out and sell something for, start giving $50 million in revenue in 1 year's time. You got to build those businesses and take that. I mean, that's why second market in large part exists in this space. And to get that acceleration, to get that revenue going, venture is a huge value there. Were there too many funds? Were there people who shouldn't have been in business? Probably. Are we going to see a tough road over the next couple of years with less money to fund interesting ideas? For those of us who've got funding and solid businesses now, it's probably a good thing because we see less competitors. But if I was starting again another Series A and I've done a couple startups in a row, it would be a little frustrating.
Okay, Doug, venture capital?
Yeah, I think I agree. VCs have been great to us. We are blessed with some amazing VCs that worked with us hand in hand. They incubated us. They were in the early stages. They were in all of our meetings. They call customers for us. They're awesome. And as guys, I've been at a dysfunctional company in the past. They're not always so good, but